Good morning, good morning. Or if it's afternoon or evening for you, wherever you are, hello. Thank you for coming back and joining me today. I think that this topic that we're going to talk about this week and maybe continue on for a while because I know it's important and there's a lot of aspects to it that need to be dealt with. I think it's going to make a big difference for some of you, and so make sure you click the subscribe button so you can see the additions to this, because it's not going to all fit into one devotional for sure. Definitely not going to fit all into a 5 to 10 minute video. So go ahead and click subscribe and put in the comments what specific things you need to know about this topic. We're going to talk about how to heal the root when you don't like the fruit. And what that means is when you can't seem to change your behavior or your actions or your feelings, no matter how hard you try, how to know where this root comes from that needs to be pulled out and changed so that you can change, so you get the behavior change that you'd like to see. And so maybe you can figure out where that came from. Now, a lot of people tell me, I had a great childhood. I had no wounding. I had amazing parents. I had no bullying. I had a loving home. And so why still am I struggling with having self-control? Why still do I get impatient or frustrated so often? And so we want to look at where that can come from and what's happening in your life that's going to get us back to figuring out where this came from and then what to do about it when you know where it came from. So the very first thing we want to look at is the fruit of the Spirit. We want to look at love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. You can find all of that in Galatians 5 if you want to look that up. But those are what's considered the fruit of the Spirit, which means if you are filled with the Spirit, you should be having those things exhibited in your life. But what if you're not? What if you're impatient sometimes? What if you are really struggling to find joy? You are saved. You are filled with the Spirit. Why are you still yelling at your kids sometimes? Why are you still really frustrated at your husband when he doesn't do what you've asked him to do, or when he's not following through on what he said he would do? Why are you still exhibiting the opposite of this fruit? Now let's look at that word. It's fruit of the Spirit, not fruits of the Spirit, which means it's one fruit. It goes together. And so if one area is missing, the whole fruit is rotten in some way. And so we want to look at that fruit and say, okay, if I'm missing self-control, but I have no problem with kindness, then something's wrong there. Okay, so what's going on? So what if no matter how hard you've tried, you can't be patient? What if you have worked really, really hard at it? What if you have made all of the goals and you've said all the good words and you have set aside your calendar and you have written out what you're going to do every single day and you have plans for what you're going to say, but you still lose your temper? How do you know that there is something wrong with you, something wrong in your life that needs to be fixed? Well, the way you know that is by you are not exhibiting the things and the character traits you're supposed to be exhibiting if you're filled with the Spirit. So no matter how hard you've tried, some of these things are non-existent in your life, then what we need to figure out is where that's coming from. Now, if you truly believed that you could have self-control or you could have patience, but you're still failing miserably, we need to look a little bit deeper. So let's look at God's Word. Now, Proverbs 3, 5 through 6 tells us that we're not supposed to lean on our own understanding. We're supposed to acknowledge Him in all of our ways, and then He'll make our paths straight. So we know by that verse that we can't get to this place in our own strength. We cannot be patient in our own strength. You cannot try through every self-help book and every list that you make to be a more patient person if the root problem is still there. If you still have a wound or a trauma that you've experienced that you might not even remember, then you still have something you need to work on. You can't do this in your own strength. We also learn this in 1 Corinthians 1:25 that tells us that God's foolishness is wiser than the wisest man. There's no way you can be wiser than God. Even his foolishness is wiser than your wisdom. And so you can't keep doing this on your own power. You just can't. So it's time to lay that thought down, that you can fix it on your own without his strength. The only way you can start being patient, the only way you can start having self-control or kindness or especially joy is through finding it in him. And he is going to lead us to the healing, because Yeshua said that he came to heal the brokenhearted and to bind up their wounds. And he came to set the captives free, right? And so we're captive to something. We don't always know what we're captive to. We don't always know what our chains and our bondage is. And we need to make sure that we get to that bondage, that chain, first to break it so that the behavior can be different, right? So 2 Corinthians 12:9 tells us that, that he's strongest in our weakness. Sorry, I lost my notes below it and I lost my place. So it says that he's strongest in our weakness. So his strength is made perfect in your weakness. So when you can finally say, I can't do this alone, I need to lay it down and let you fix it, God, that's when he shows up and he does the work. But what if you have been relying on God and it's still not happening? What if you have been putting all your focus on him, praying, fasting, seeking him with all that you are, giving him all the glory, doing all you can to stand, and you're still failing? We're going to talk about that in the next video. All right, so come back for the next one and be blessed today. I hope that you recognize that you cannot keep doing this in your own strength. And if you've been trying, then you're running in circles. So the next video, we're going to talk about what if you've relied on God solely and completely, and you still are struggling with patience, kindness, joy, faithfulness, gentleness. What if you're still struggling with one area of the fruit of the Spirit, even if you've relied on God? All right, so click subscribe and we'll talk about that next time. Be blessed.